morning, everybody. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we created this show just for you. We created it for you because we want everybody with an invisible condition to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that they have a voice, they have a community, and they are not alone. And they're not invisible, by the way. I know the condition might be invisible, but you're not. So actually, I have to play this. I played this on the last show, and I have to do this real quick because it's hilarious. You're not invisible.
Ah! Am I invisible?
No, you're not. So anyway, I don't know why that cracks me up, but it's great. Anyway, okay, back to business here. Stephanie Berman is here today, and you're going to love her, guys. She's awesome. She's the executive director of the AZIZA Project. And the AZIZA Project offers hope to patients suffering from complex gynecologic pain by providing funding for them to see the doctors with the necessary knowledge and training they need to help them. Stephanie started the AZIZA Project because she has suffered from some of that same pain, and for like the last 16 years, and it took her 15 years and 12 providers to find answers, which is not okay. So her mission is to make quality care available to all patients who are suffering, and that is amazing, and I love it. So here we go. Let's welcome Stephanie. Hello. Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So, I had a question that I was going to ask you, but I'm totally drawing a blank. So I'm going to say, take it away. What is going on? Let's see share with us just a quick overview of what your condition is, and ending with the one that's the topic for today. Like what's going on? Like I know you've got more than one.
Right. Okay. So like Jeff said in the intro, my pain started like 15 years ago, depending on which pain generator you're talking about. And so like endometriosis was one. We solved that one with the surgery in 2020. Then that one came along with adenomyosis and endosalpingiosis. And yes, I'm throwing out all these medical words. Google them right now. And then after that surgery, another pain that I'd been suffering from for like 12 to 15 years, depending on the symptom, kind of rose to the top. And those of us with multiple types of pain realize how when you solve one, another one rises to the top and now feels worse. So that one got worse. And I finally looked at my husband. Oh, when would that have been? Mid 2021, maybe. And I said, we've got to get this figured out. So I bounced around a couple more doctors. And
well, before that though, what else are you, what other conditions are you diagnosed with? We have one in common.
Yes. Oh, you wanted me to touch on that one too. Yes.
Yeah. We got stuff in common, man. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure we were getting into that in this show.
No, you're good. We're not going to get into it too much, but I just was like, well, there's just like a lot of other guests, there are a lot of co-conditions with some of these invisible conditions. And so I just wanted to kind of start the show with this is what you're all diagnosed for, but this is what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Kind of
okay. So Jeff is right. And yeah, I guess I'm talking directly to the audience. I hope that's okay.
Go for it. That's the idea.
Okay. So Jeff is hinting at the fact that I have hydrocephalus as well. So I was born with it. That's a whole nother story. I've already told Jeff, have me back.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring my mom, maybe even my dad. This would be a fun story
seriously,
to tell.
we'll talk about that. Yes, that would be awesome.
That's not like, oh my goodness, no. Dad's not the public speaker of the family. That's definitely my mom. Um, so yeah, diagnosed with hydrocephalus at birth. Then all of these gynecological pains started happening after I got married. And my husband and I have been married for 16 years. And I've been dealing with gynecological pain basically that whole time. So yeah, hysterectomy in 2020 solved the endometriosis stuff. Then like I said, this other pain rose to the top. And it was more of an external pain. And I really, for a while, I wondered if it was actually dermatological. So the provider that I saw in 2021, I believe, yes, 2021, I saw a dermatologist, and she prescribed a medication because she took one look, and she said, "Oh yeah, this is definitely lichen sclerosis." And I don't have lichen sclerosis, but I didn't know that at the time, and I wasn't prepared to advocate for myself to say, "Hey, you can't diagnose me with lichen sclerosis without doing a vulvar biopsy."
You got to do something. You can't just snap your fingers and go, "Oh, I know what you got."
Yeah. So like she was only doing like a visual examination. She didn't actually do a biopsy. So she put me on a bunch of medications for lichen sclerosis, and nothing really helped.
Sure.
So no surprise, because it turned out I didn't have it. And then we just went along like that. I ended up going on Instagram to look for somebody who was talking about lichen sclerosis, because my doctor really was no help. And found a gal in Toronto who runs a blog called The Lost Labia Chronicles.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And she talks all about lichen sclerosis, like just different options. Her whole thing is education. None of it's medical advice, of course, and none of what I'm going to say is medical advice.
Right.
And so she had done an Instagram live with a doctor in Tulsa, Oklahoma, talking about lichen sclerosis. But in the course of that, then I found his Instagram profile and I started going through all his posts. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this condition sounds like it could be what I have. This condition sounds like what it could be having. I bet this doctor can figure out what it is.
You got to be careful with some of that, because people go, it's like going on WebMD, right? And then all of a sudden you've got 300 conditions and you're a hypochondriac, you know? So.
I know. There's something like medical students run into this too. Like they're studying all these diseases and then all of a sudden they like start self-diagnosing.
Yeah.
They don't have anything wrong with them.
I don't know. Maybe yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I was looking through his Instagram and I'm like, this might be what it is. And got in touch with him, scheduled a virtual consultation, and we'll probably circle back to that in the story.
Sure.
Because you wanted to get to the diagnosis part first. So we'll get there and then backtrack.
Sure.
And then, within a few months, I was in Tulsa, right in front of this doctor.
Nice.
And we had first met virtually in October. That would have been October of 2022. So just a little less than a year ago. And within 30 minutes, he was already suspicious of what he thought it was. He's like, this is not lichen sclerosis. Like, he paid attention to my husband's observations to come to that conclusion.
Wait, hold on. He listened.
Yes. He not only listened to me, but he listened to my spouse as well.
Yes. And that's huge. That's so huge. Yeah. That's why you bring them along, after all.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yay. Good job, man.
I know, right? And so we went in January, and turns out I have hypertonic pelvic floor dysfunction, which means the muscles in my pelvic floor are just super, super tight. And when muscles in the pelvic floor get super, super tight, they can squeeze the nerves that run through the pelvic floor. Oh. And so I have a condition. So the next day after he did the physical examination, he did a pudendal nerve block, which is basically numbing the nerve to see is that what's causing her pain. And sure enough, he told me that nerve block was only going to last 3 days. I got 5. and they were the
There you
best 5 days I'd had in a decade.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Pudendal neuralgia it is, and I'm actually going back to Tulsa in October for a longer acting nerve block. So
Okay. Hey, whatever works, man.
yeah.
So for the audience out there, I just want to throw this out there. There's going to be a lot of terms you've probably not heard. I have never heard of this stuff, and there's a lot of big words that end in osis, you know. So I just kind of rolled with it, you know, and then we kind of started looking some of them up. But if anybody, what I'm saying is, if you are having, or you know somebody that's having trouble with something anywhere close to this, here's your person right here. This is your girl right here.
Yep.
If you want to, you've got her for the next 40 minutes or so. If you're on Facebook or whatever, type a message in there. You can ask her a question, or we'll have her contact information later. And it's on the episode and everything. You can reach out to her because she's the girl to talk to, man. It's gonna be awesome. So
yeah, and honestly, if I say a word and Jeff, you don't know what it is, stop me and ask me to define it right here. I'll happily do that.
I will. Don't worry. There'll be plenty of time for that. Plenty of opportunities for that. So yeah.
I just wanted to be clear. I didn't want to just
No. I get it. It's just it's a common thing with the show, really, because there's so many conditions out there that you go and they all end with like itis and osis and all the different. And so
and
I'm used to that. Don't worry. Yeah, you go. Wait. Whoa. Back up a minute. You said something. I don't get what it is.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the medical professionals, and God bless medical professionals. Okay, I'm just going to say it right up front. Right, we wouldn't be here without them. Right, especially with the hydrocephalus. Okay, but they don't always. Sometimes I like to say sometimes they're just practicing and they need to get the. They're just practicing medicine and they don't know everything yet. So they sometimes they learn from their patients. And so,
I want to throw something in here. I want to be at least respectful of, the emergency medicine professionals, the family doctors, the OBGYNs who love delivering babies, and just say, if they're living in their sweet spot, doing the basics, that's great. And I have nothing wrong with them. My problem is with the providers who don't want to help their patients enough to say, hey, I don't know what you're dealing with. Let's go to, let's send you to the next level of care. Now,
they don't want to give you up. They don't want to refer you because they want to keep you there.
And part of the problem here is that they also don't know who to refer to. Like, we don't have a vulvovaginal specialist in my metro area of 300,000.
Wow.
And Tulsa is only 400,000, and they've got one. So,
well, there you go.
So that's part of my dream.
So they're out there, but sometimes you have to search for them, and it's not. I can't fault them for it, because they want to. Part of it, I think, with a good doc, is they want to exhaust everything they can do before they pass you along to somebody else. Like, I can imagine that might be their motivation sometimes, but I get it. I get what you're hearing. I get what you're saying for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, so can you just explain the different, there's always different types of pain, right? Like with hydrocephalus, there's different kinds of headaches, right? So So with gynecologic pain, can you just explain some of the different forms of that takes and how that affects women's lives?
Yeah. So lichen sclerosis was the one that first came to my mind. I'll start there. That's a dermatological condition. And also I think they're saying that's how it manifests, would be on the skin. But it may be autoimmune, if I remember correctly. I'm not an expert in that one. And then you have nerve stuff, like I was saying. And that could be, a damaged nerve, but it could also just be a pinched nerve. It could be a fully entrapped nerve if scar tissue has gotten wrapped around it, stuff like that. You could have muscular issues.
Yep.
And then hormonal issues as well. So because the vulva is, I don't remember what Dr. Babb says. There's a lot of hormone receptors in the vestibule. That's what it is.
There you go.
The vestibule is part of the genitalia down there. It's and it's very rich in testosterone receptors, actually, if I remember correctly, which is interesting. So it's very easy to get like a hormonal imbalance down there, which can cause other issues. And then even when like women go through menopause,
Sure.
there's other like genitourinary symptoms of menopause. So that's actually a thing. So and that can manifest with like frequent UTIs and stuff like that. So all sorts of different ways to get pain down there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh man. And but the good news is you are relatively, it sounds like you're relatively new with all of the diagnoses coming together and actually being solid and like, okay, this is what we're dealing with.
Yes.
So you're kind of learning along with everybody and kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I only found out about pudendal neuralgia being a thing last summer. So in 2022. I should, a little warning for anybody who's like a long distance cyclist out there. That is a major cause of pudendal neuralgia. So, okay.
Well, there you go. I you know what, I can think of a couple of friends and relatives of mine that really like doing that. So maybe so that's all right. Heads up, everybody. There you go.
Pelvic pain. It might be pudendal neuralgia.
Don't ignore that stuff. Get it checked out. Oh man, crazy.
So I'm still relatively new to the diagnosis, still kind of learning, still trying to figure out. Really, there's not. It's pretty rare, at least diagnostically pretty rare.
Sure.
As we all know, strange stuff is harder to figure out, so it may actually be more prevalent than we think it is.
Right.
And so, because it's so rare, there's not a lot of research into treatments and options, and like surgery is basically like, you can try it and see if it helps.
Oh, jeez.
And my doctor in Tulsa has this thing. I don't remember what I asked him to say this, but he's like, practicing medicine, it can be more of an art than a science at times.
Exactly. Totally. And it can't, and that's where you got to find the right artist, right? You got to find the right doc that's going to have that balance of art, personal experience, and education, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So that's huge. Well, I hate to say it, but we are at the end of a segment here, and I can't wait to get to the next one, because we're going to be talking about the AZIZA Project and how you are rocking it. And I know that all of this is relatively new, but you jumped in with both feet and you're helping people, and I love that. So stick around, everybody. We're going to be talking about her organization, the AZIZA Project, here in just a couple of minutes, and we'll see you on the other side of the break.
Hi, Eva Black Occurrence here, and I am the host of One Punch Superstars, where we meet real people who chose to fight for their hopes and their dreams and become the champions of their destiny. You can find us on Achieve TV every Tuesday and Wednesday at noon Mountain Standard Time, right here on E360 TV.
All right, welcome back, everybody, and thank you for sticking around, Stephanie. I know you weren't going anywhere. I know.
Oh.
But...
I love your music. I'm sitting here in the backstage, and I'm like dancing along with it.
All right, yeah. So, well, good. I'm glad I picked the right kind. Yeah. Man, putting that stuff together, I tell you, there's so much out there too. So many options. You know, you go, well, I don't know. Let's pick that one. So I'm glad you liked it. So, AZIZA Project. Let's talk here. What motivated you to start that, and how does it address how does it aim to address the challenges that that women are going through that you're hoping to help them with?
So the AZIZA Project first popped into my head the morning of my virtual consultation with my doctor in Tulsa last October. I woke up at 3:30 in the morning and I was thinking to myself, how did I get so blessed to be able to financially afford to consult with a doctor of this caliber? Because it's not cheap.
No.
And is there a way that I can help women who are suffering from these same types of pain as me without having to wait and do it in like our estate planning, you know, when we're gone?
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to see the results of it now. And fast forward a few months, you know, it kind of stuck in the back of my head, you know, how do I make a nonprofit? It's tricky to make a nonprofit, as you know.
It can be, yeah.
And it can be a long process. And I'm like, I don't want it to be long. I want to do it now. I don't want to wait. And
yeah.
We flew to Tulsa in January. I had my procedures and we were back at the hotel. I'm laying on the bed with my phone in my hand and I realized, oh, I have a way to basically snap my fingers and start a nonprofit. Because I had already started a project that had nonprofit status back in 2009. And I'd just completely forgotten about it because we hadn't had to take any donations since 2014. But we had a fiscal sponsor who was taking care of all the paperwork and stuff for us.
Hey.
So I just reached out to them and I said, hey, you want another women's health project? And they said yes. And that was January 19th. And the rest of it's kind of history.
Bam. So, there you go.
So now we're helping women access the care they need. And this is crucial because American health insurance will pay more for 4 15-minute appointments than they will for one 1-hour appointment. And Jeff is laughing because he knows that you can't get to the bottom of a complex problem in 15 minutes.
And you have to come back then.
Yes.
Which makes them more money. Yeah.
And you're basically starting from square one. You probably can't even get in for another month or 2 or 3.
And then that's if you remember where you left off, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So these providers that are helping with these conditions often can't afford to take insurance because they need to be able to spend that hour with their patients. So they can't keep their doors open and take insurance. So they end up being out of network for any insurance usually. And that means that, and they're often in solo practice, which means they're covering their own malpractice insurance and their own lease on their building and paying themselves and paying whatever staff they have and buying their own supplies. And so they have to charge more than what we would pay if they were in network. Right. And that comes out of the patient's pocket. And then I said, these women who are suffering from whatever type of pain, especially like the pudendal neuralgia and the other nerve type conditions, especially, they're in so much pain, they often can't work. And so I said, we're going to stand in the gap and we're going to tell the patients, okay, if you qualify for funding, we will pay the doctor on your behalf, and we'll tell the doctors we will pay the doctors for the patients so that the doctors get paid, they can keep their doors open, the patients can get seen, and everybody's happy.
That's awesome. Yeah, stand in the gap indeed. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing there. Because I was just going to ask you about that because those 15-minute appointments. I mean, I've had some disastrous results come from those 15-minute appointments. I went to a brand new neurologist one time and they thought they knew my life story in 15 minutes and prescribed the medication they shouldn't have prescribed. So it was it worked out okay. It didn't hurt me or anything, but it was for about 2 weeks. I was like, this isn't helping at all. Did she, I was like,
Sounds like me and that dermatologist.
Yeah. So it's super important. I have been very fortunate to have I had a neurologist that was like you're talking about, the ideal guy. Like he said, sat there for almost 2 hours with me. And I couldn't even believe it. I kept looking at my watch going, are you sure? And so that is huge to be able to get the people that need the care and the longer appointments to be able to do that. So that is huge. Well done.
Thank you.
So what kind of, so you probably have some financial support, like initiatives that the AZIZA Project provides and to patients, and like how do you, I'm looking for stories. Like, tell me a story of how you were able to do that and it changed somebody's life. Like you gotta have a couple of those already.
Yeah. So the first one I can think of was the very first virtual consultation that we covered.
Nice.
This was exciting. This was fun. So actually, a friend of mine, her daughter was suffering from some issues, and she was a pre-professional ballerina.
Wow.
Who is having some bleeding issues, and had no idea what was going on. So we were able to get that ball rolling and get that consultation covered for them. And I heard from the mom after the virtual consultation, and she said, I heard words in that consultation I'd never heard before. I was writing them down and having to go Google them later.
Yep.
I like, let's go. So due to other issues, they haven't been able to take that information much further than the virtual consultation, but we're still hopeful that having a direction to go is helpful for them. So they've been able to try some things at home, natural treatments and stuff like that. So
nice.
Sometimes
that's all it takes, right? You do the virtual consultation, and then they can take it from there. It doesn't always, you don't always have to take them from A all the way to Z.
Right.
So that's so cool.
Yeah.
So how do you work with doctors and medical professionals for that specialized, because that's like really specialized treatment and pretty complicated, conditions and stuff. How do you have like partnerships with some, or like how are you doing that?
So we only are working with the one doctor in Tulsa right now.
Okay.
I'm hoping we can add more providers by like the end of 2024. Right now, I'm really trying to get like policies and procedures. How do we talk with doctors? How do we introduce ourselves to doctors? How do we get them on board? What are our expectations of them if they're going to be an AZIZA affiliated provider or whatever we end up calling them? And one thing that's super important is that any provider who is seeing AZIZA patients is going to have trauma-informed care training, because so many patients who are dealing with these complex gynecological pain issues have been gaslit by providers. Now, sometimes they can end up being, unintentionally gaslit, I think.
Yeah.
If the provider doesn't really know what to do. But they can also, I feel like I've been intentionally gaslit by providers who should have known better.
Yeah.
Based on where they were at in their field.
And basically misleading is what you're saying. Gaslight. You're like misleading a patient
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they just don't care. Um,
Yeah, that's a problem.
ran
Yeah.
into that too.
Yeah. Ugh.
So that trauma informed care training piece is going to be really important for future providers.
Yeah.
But then also like figuring out funding, like, okay, if one provider charges this much for this type of appointment and this provider charges, $200 more, how are we going to handle that as the AZIZA project if patient Becky wants to see provider B who charges more? I have some ideas for that. So we've kind of sorted that out, but we need to get everything down in writing so we can communicate that to providers so that if they do charge for it, they can decide, okay, am I going to discount it down to what AZIZA is covering, or am I going to expect the patient to cover that last $200?
Well, it seems like that would be the way to go because, I mean, there's like, there's like self-pay options on all these things, and there's like sharing ministries out there for medical bills and stuff.
Yeah.
And they just treat you like a self-pay patient, and they discount their services as if you're self-paying. So
yeah,
it seems like it could go kind of down that road with it,
Yeah.
But I know it's tricky when you're dealing with doctors and medicine and stuff. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I want to avoid is making sure that the AZIZA project doesn't just turn into another insurance company, because we're not an insurance company.
No.
So I don't want to dictate to the doctors what they can charge. I want to leave it up to them. Hey, if you choose to discount down to what we're willing to cover, that's up to you.
Right. Well, and then they can be part of your network, or whatever. So it's
And then the other thing that we're going to cover too is not just like, we kind of have a 4-step process of how we're going to what we're going to cover and what orders. Like, first is the virtual consultation to make sure, does this patient even need to go to Tulsa? When I asked the doctor, do I need to come to Tulsa? The response I got was literally, oh my goodness, yes, she needs to come to Tulsa. So yes, that is what we're listening to for as these AZIZA patients are having these virtual consultations, because the doctor, well, he can't diagnose, treat, or prescribe during these virtual consultations like he was able to do for the pre-professional ballerina. He can give ideas of, hey, here's some recommendations.
Yeah.
And then that recommendation sheet, he can either send it directly to their primary care provider, or the patient can take that recommendation sheet to the primary care provider themselves.
Nice.
To get some help that way without having to go all the way to Tulsa. But if he does tell somebody, hey, you need to come to Tulsa to be seen, get a nerve block, whatever, so the AZIZA project would cover the virtual consultation. Then we would help get them to Tulsa, airfare and hotel.
Nice.
And then if we still have money we can help them with, then we would help them with the doctor's fees on the ground in Tulsa, or whatever city it ends up being, 2024, 2025, when we have more providers.
Yeah.
And then after that, if we still have money we can help them with, then if they had any in-network expenses and they needed help with those bills, then we would help them with those as well.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, you guys have quite the track you're on. I can't wait to see. I mean, we'll have to have you back next year sometime for the AZIZA. I mean, yes, we're going to have you back for the hydrocephalus, but sooner probably. But like a year from now, I can't wait to have you come back and go, oh yeah, we're in this state and that state, and we're all over the place. And
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be so cool. So speaking of helping people all over the place, you have also been able to help women through social media.
Yes.
How's that?
So I've had some really great conversations with women. The thing that keeps coming up is that people want to be heard. Like you were saying at the very beginning, we're not invisible, and we do deserve to have our stories heard. We do deserve to tell our stories. And that it's even encouraging to me to talk to other women who are dealing with pudendal neuralgia, because I don't have to sugarcoat things, and I can be like, I'm having a horrible day today. Or this is exactly what type of medication I'm on, and this is what's going on. And like, be super frustrated and be like, this is what's going on. And they can be super frustrated, as they talk with me, and, we can kind of talk each other through that. And there was even, one gal reached out. Our doctor in Tulsa was on the news in Tulsa a few months ago. And
Nice.
I jumped on the comments that when he posted it on Facebook. I jumped on the comments from the AZIZA Facebook page, and then I got this message from this gal who was looking for some help. And turns out she wasn't quite ready to jump right into an appointment with Dr. Bab, but we were just messaging back and forth, and she was having some issues like in her marriage related to these issues that she was having, and I was able to, based on some marriage advice that I'd heard, I was able to encourage her and be like, well, has your husband had his testosterone checked? Just an idea, just an education. It sounds like this could be an issue. Go Google it and see what you think. And she's like, yeah, that sounds familiar. So I'm not sure how that all turned out, or if he ended up going and getting checked. But she was like, if that's what it is, that's a pretty easy fix. And that could really help our marriage a whole lot. So we're not only helping women in pain, we are literally in the business of saving marriages.
I love it. Actually, I have when you started talking about that, I'm sorry if I looked like I was looking somewhere else, but I was writing something down because I wanted to. After the show, we got to talk about that because I have somebody that you might want to get in touch with that might be able to help you in that regard. So she's amazing. So she's actually been on the show. So yeah. Her name is Pauline Dillard. She was on the show a few weeks ago, and she's amazing. So I'll get you her info afterwards. And anybody that wants to go back and watch his show, it was pretty cool. She's awesome. So we've worked with her on lots of things over the years. So well, I'll tell you what, we are at kind of that point where it's like, do we get into another story or do we go to a break? So I'm going to say, let's go to a break real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll have a little extra time in the last segment to kind of wrap all this up and get people excited to reach out to you so that they can get what they need. So, all right, let's do that. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. We'll be back. Welcome back, everybody. And I have a question. I have a question for you. I actually have two that I try to ask everybody when there's time. I try to make time for these questions because they're important. With all of the stuff that we heard about in the first 40 minutes, and there's a lot. I mean, there's and with people that are starting to get an organization off the ground and dealing with an invisible condition, it can be really hard. So I would like to ask you, how do you, Stephanie, personally find hope in your most challenging times?
My faith.
Yes. Good answer.
Yeah.
Look, tell me more about that.
Literally. Jeff, I told you about our dog, right?
Tell me again.
Okay, so
I don't remember.
in March, we got a dog. I've never had a dog. This is my first dog. I'm a cat person,
Oof.
but God brought this dog to us right when we needed him. I'm gonna cry. I haven't cried yet, but I'm gonna cry telling this story because
It's okay.
it's so amazing. During the pandemic, God had really given me the story of Hagar.
Mm-hmm.
And that part where she says, you are the God who sees me. And that has really stuck with me. And in Hebrew, that name is El Roi. And when we got our dog, even before we found our dog, I knew that we were going to name our dog Elroy.
Nice.
So we anglicized it. But it's like a reminder. Like every time I see my dog, it's a reminder that God sees me.
Nice.
Like he sees me in my pain. He sees me as I'm trying to run my business. He sees me as I'm trying to get the AZIZA Project up and running. And it reminds me that I don't need to worry about anything because God already knows. And I'm just stepping out in faith, and I'm like, okay, this is, this going back to Tulsa for this longer acting nerve block is a step of faith because sometimes they don't work.
Yeah.
So, I really love having that constant reminder with me now that God sees me, and it's really helped to just give me hope that, okay, as I'm walking through these doors and seeing God provide for financially for us to be able to do this, I'm just shaking my head how God's providing the money especially through my husband's work benefits. That's been super helpful, even getting coverage for the out of network stuff, the benefits at work. That's been really great.
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
It's just been great. So to have that financial provision helps me to know, yes, we are taking the right steps, knowing that, hey, this trip to Tulsa is already paid for. We have almost everything we need for not only the travel expenses, but the out-of-network expenses. The in-network expenses should be fully covered because I've already met my in-network deductible for the year. And those expenses should be in network, believe it or not, which was kind of a shock going from Washington State to Oklahoma.
That is a little bit of a shock.
My doctor's office is like, wow, okay.
Okay, well done. Yikes, but well done.
That's good. So that's where it's in my faith. That's where I find hope, and my dog, and not finding hope in my dog, but just his name is just that constant reminder that God sees me.
That's amazing. And so along kind of in that same vein, in all the challenges and in the, with all the stuff that you've seen God provide for and everything, what are some challenges that you're actually thankful for?
I'm thankful for my pain. It's been a crazy wild ride the last 16 years of marriage. I joked it felt like we lived the first 10 years of marriage. No, the first year of marriage 10 years in a row. That's what it was. The first year of marriage 10 years in a row. And it turned out, we didn't know it at the time, this is why it was so difficult, as both my husband and I are on the neurodivergent spectrum.
Oh.
So we were dealing with undiagnosed neurodivergence, didn't know it.
Oh my goodness.
Couldn't figure out why we couldn't, we got along okay. We were great friends, but, we couldn't figure out why we were triggering each other all the time. And then we discovered, there's this thing called autism and ADHD, and only we knew about them, but it was like, looking at these symptoms, so
oh man,
that's been interesting.
That whole hindsight is 2020 thing,
Yeah, and then going through, because of the nature of my pain being gynecological, that impacted the physical intimacy side of our relationship in a negative way for 3 years.
Yeah.
And that in itself, yes, it was hard. But it was also good for our relationship because it forced us to learn to communicate in other ways, and
Yeah.
better. And so now that that's back on the table, it's better. Like I look back at that time period and I'm like, that was hard, that was frustrating, but I'm glad we went through it.
Yeah.
And that led to like just a great moment for us. We just celebrated our 16th wedding anniversary in July, and
Nice.
I asked my husband, what was the highlight of this past year for you? And we both agreed it was that first trip to Tulsa in January when my husband asked the doctor flat out, "Is this my fault?" And the doctor was like, "No, you did nothing to cause this." And that just lifted a huge weight off my husband's shoulders because
Yeah.
for all of these years, 12 years that my pain's been really bad, he wondered, did I cause this?
Yeah.
And
God, that'd be a lot. That'd be a lot on his mind.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
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 He must have just melted in that doctor's office at the time.
Just
after he
about.
heard that.
Yeah, he's definitely relieved. I would say 2023 has been probably our best year of marriage so far. It's still been difficult because I'm still in pain.
Sure.
And I felt great after that initial treatment for several months. Things were great. And then I've just started to slide. But we both know when you're dealing with a chronic condition, recovery doesn't look like this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's like loop-de-loop, It's like
Exactly. So this is just another mountain on the roller coaster going back to Tulsa, and okay,
Yeah.
can we get one less loop in the roller coaster this time? So
nice.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that. That's so cool, and I'm so thankful for your husband too, because I'm a husband,
Yeah.
and I can only imagine the weight on him for so long, wondering about that, and finally being able to get that answer. So
can I talk about that a little bit more?
What's that?
Can I talk about that a little bit more?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that going through that has really, like, it's given him, my husband, a bigger heart for husbands who are walking beside their wives as they go through this, because I realized during one of the breaks there's one condition that I didn't even talk about, and that's a condition called vaginismus, and that's where like the vaginal walls just completely tense up and just close everything off. It's like if somebody's gonna punch you in the arm, you tense your arm. Yep. It's just like that. But it's those vaginal wall muscles tensing up like that. And there's treatment for that. And Jeff, you and I are both people of faith, and vaginismus is a huge problem in the evangelical Christian circles. And it never gets talked about. So I just wanted to bring that up and say there's hope. There's treatments for it. In fact, the doctor that I saw in Tulsa, he's one of 4 in the entire world trained in this procedure that has a 90% cure rate for vaginismus.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, we gotta when this goes live, when this goes out on social media and is on demand, because it's live now, but it's always on demand afterwards. Immediately after the episode on Facebook and YouTube, it's available, and then a few hours later on E360. But we can always put that in the comments too. You can put whatever information you want in there for people to be able to take advantage of that, because that's huge. Yeah, that's amazing. So we've got about 5 minutes left, and I know it's always so fast, but I'm so glad we've had this time. But how can we help? How can people help you with the organization? How can they find you? How can they reach out to you? Go for it.
All right. So our website is azizaproject.org. And there is a contact form on there where you can reach out if you want to find help. You want to tell somebody your story. You want to volunteer. You want to donate. We can't make this happen without donations. And we're also on social media. We're on Instagram at AZIZA Project. Or on Facebook, the AZIZA Project. Yes, there you go. And if you're going to our website in September of 2023, you may be looking at our old website still. We have a brand new website that should be going live by the end of the month.
Nice.
So I'm super excited about that. That's going to have a lot more information than the current landing page does.
So keep an eye on everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, keep an eye on it. It's got an intro to our doctor, a link to his page, information for patients. It's got, that patient story about the ballerina I was talking about. And we'll have more patient stories on there as we get more patients. Main thing is 40% of women will encounter a complex gynecological problem at some point in their lifetime. So if you have 10 female friends, or I guess 9 female friends, if you're a woman and you have 9 female friends, 4 of you will encounter something to do with what the AZIZA Project is doing in your lifetime or in your friend's lifetime. So
my goodness.
Listen to each other, hear each other's stories, ask each other how you're doing. And if you hear of somebody who's struggling, especially like a new bride who's coming out of like part of, especially conservative evangelical circles, let them know, hey, you may run into this vaginismus issue. And if you do, there's help, and send them our way. If you've been diagnosed with lichen sclerosis and you don't know what to do, reach out and we can connect you with our doctor. We can, connect you with the Lost Labia Chronicles. Jeff, you should interview Jacqueline from the Lost Labia Chronicles. She's fantastic.
I would love to. Bring it on. Yeah.
I'll see if I've got her email address, and I'll see if I can do an introduction when we're done.
That'd be incredible. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to her. Yeah.
And so just reach out. I want to talk. So yeah, I'm here to listen.
I love it. This is so cool. Yeah. I can't wait for you to get flooded with emails and people looking for information. And one last thing I want to pop up here is there was a guest I had. I think it was an organization that I had on. I'd have to look back, but this line, I keep popping this up, but this line is so good for like, just, I feel like I want to make it part of our tagline, It's like, you're here, you're still here. You have survived. You today, to this day, you have survived 100% of your hard days so far. So well done. Pat yourself on the back and move on. Keep on going. So that's the mantra, or so to speak, of anybody with an invisible condition. You're still breathing and upright. So so it's awesome. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. I'm honored to have had you on here, and I'm thankful for the connections you've already helped us make, and looking forward to more. And yes, we will definitely get you on here again to talk about another aspect of things going on. But thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, everybody. This was so cool. I of all the things that we've covered on this show, this was kind of cool. And I did not, this is not the one that I would imagine that all the husbands would tune into, but this is an important one for them too, because they can encourage people, their spouse and stuff to get the help that they need if they need it. So awesome show. Thank you so much. Anybody that wants to, we are growing, and we are so thankful for that. And we want to extend an invitation to anybody that would like to grow with us. If there are people that would like to have an ad during the commercial break, or sponsor the show or anything like that to help get this impact out there, we'd love to talk to you. And as far as the next show, we are on Tuesday. Tuesday, September 19th, Dr. Kristen Wild is going to be our guest, and she's going to be talking about how she actually overcame rheumatoid arthritis. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be amazing. Can't wait to see you then. Until then, have an amazing week, and we'll see you next time.